Hello, welcome once again to Lehto's Law. I'm Steve Lehto. Josh sent me another story. Thank you very much, sir. And if you see stories in the news, on the internet, wherever you might see them, feel free to send me links you think I'd be interested or if they might make good stories here. I fished through them all. And, what's really funny is I'll get bombarded where people send me the same ones, 20 different people. And then I'll get one from somebody who says, I'm sure you've seen this before and I've never seen it. I'm like, no. Never assume I've seen anything. Just send it all over. But this one's a pretty funny one out of Florida. Self-proclaimed psychic fortune teller gets prison for $1.6 million family curse scam. And I love the word scam, as you know. And as Josh pointed out, the obvious joke, didn't she see this coming? But, this is one of those things I will have to talk a little bit about at the end. I won't try to go on a tirade about it, but the story is reported by the Associated Press. Sherry Tina Uwanowicz is a woman from South Florida, and she claimed to be a psychic fortune teller. She was recently sentenced in Miami to 3 years and 4 months in prison for taking $1.6 million from a Texas woman, and the money she took was in exchange for a service she promised in which she would remove a curse from the family of the woman who paid her the money. Curse removal service. A South Florida woman who claimed to be a psychic fortune teller has been sentenced to 3 years and 4 months in prison for taking $1.6 million from the Texas woman. Court records show that 28-year-old Sherry Tina Uwanowicz was sentenced last week in Miami. She previously pleaded guilty to wire fraud and has also been ordered to pay restitution. So jail time and pay the money back. Of course, how does a fortune teller get the money back? Probably has to go out and earn the money somehow. And you wonder what kind of job that'll entail. Investigators say Uwanowicz met the victim in Houston in 2007. Uwanowicz gained the woman's trust and convinced her that a curse had been placed on her and her family. Uwanowicz claimed she needed large sums of money for crystals and candles to perform meditations that would lift the curse. See, some curses, I guess you can lift with just candles. Some you can lift with just crystals. But some you can only lift with extremely valuable crystals and candles. And of course, that's going to be about $1.6 million. The scheme ended in 2014 when Uwanowicz admitted to the victim there had been no curse. Now, this raises several questions. The first of which is, if Uwanowicz had never admitted that there was no curse, would she have still been in this situation here? Makes you wonder. Because, is that when the woman who was the victim here went to the authorities? Or had she already gone to the authorities and then did Uwanowicz then foolishly admit, oh, there's no curse, I'm just taking your money? And second of all, what kind of crystals and candles can you buy with 1.6 mil? I've seen crystals for sale at art fairs and gift shops and things like that. And I've seen candles for sale at the mall. But those are stores I usually have to avoid because, just thinking about Yankee Candle makes my sinuses hurt. But seriously, 1.6, you can buy a lot of candleage for that. But this is a bigger question, and this, I'm being honest here. I'm being serious. In the field of consumer protection, let's just talk about generalities here. You are a consumer. You go out and you buy things with money. So you go to a store and you want to buy a magic marker, which is a trademark, I admit. You want to buy a felt tip marker. You go into the store and you see felt tip markers on the shelf and there's a price tag on it. And you go, that seems like a fair price, that felt tip marker. And you pay for the felt tip marker and you take it home and you pull it out and you go to use it. It doesn't work. Okay? So you go back to the store. You go, I want my money back. They go, you can't have your money back. You go, the marker didn't work. They go, too bad you bought it as is. You're looking at the marker and you see somewhere on it says, no, guaranteed to be a great marker. This marker will ink things up like no other marker ever has. Now, you understand the general concept there, that if you paid money for something and you didn't get what you bargained for, you have been ripped off, okay? Whether the person ripped you off intentionally or they simply failed to fulfill the promises, whether you were truly mulcted or not, I don't know. M-U-L-C-T-E-D, good word. But whether or not the person had bad intent doesn't matter. You still, as a consumer, deserve to get what you bargained for, okay? That's the idea. And in Michigan, there was a law on the books called the Consumer Protection Act, MCL 445901 et sec. It's not really on the books anymore, even though it's in the books, but the Michigan Supreme Court kind of overruled it and said it doesn't really apply to anybody. The legislature just passed it for the fun of it. But the statute, while it was in force, basically created a cause of action for somebody who gave money to somebody else in exchange for goods or services. And if the other party was a merchant who dealt with goods of that kind or services of that kind, and they failed to provide the promised benefits of the goods or services that they promised, they could be held accountable. Okay, so everyone understands this concept. So you walked into the store and you bought that marker and it doesn't work, you can bring it back and get your money back. That's how that works. And so, that general concept makes complete sense. So the next step, though, is what happens when somebody promises something strange like this, okay? So you've seen the ads on TV, call Mistress Cleo and she'll, on this 900 number and she'll, tell your fortune. Well, at the bottom of the screen's a bunch of that small text. And if you froze the screen and read it, it'll say this is for entertainment purposes only. She's not actually going to tell your future. This is entertainment purposes only. You are going to be entertained. And as long as you are entertained, you got your benefit of the bargain. And if you say, I wasn't entertained, they're going to say, well, it's too bad. Your standards are too high. What did you expect the phone call to be when it's somebody with a goofy accent saying, oh, I see love in your future? You didn't find that entertaining? Too bad. Was it really not what you expected? Okay. It's kind of like if I went and saw a bad movie, I wasn't entertained, but movies can be bad. Okay. Some can be worse than others. But when it comes to fortune tellers, this is a really interesting question, because I can tell you right now, I can think of at least 2 businesses that I could take you to right now where there is a building on a major thoroughfare and there's a sign in front that goes fortune telling. Okay. You can go in and, palm reading, fortune telling, horoscopes read, things of that nature. You can go in there and pay somebody. I've never done it, but you can go in there and pay somebody some money and they'll read your palm or read your horoscope or tell your fortune. Okay. And I've actually known more than one person who knows somebody who knows somebody who will come to a party, a group of people, and we'll go sit in another room, and for the entertainment of all the people at the party, each person can go in there one at a time and have their fortunes told. And I actually know people who take this kind of seriously, who actually say, well, it's kind of weird that the woman knew things about me, I'm not even going to go there, okay? But the point simply is this, that if you flip somebody $20 and they say, I'm going to read your palm, and you show them your palm, and they go, oh, you've got this lifeline here, you got this money line here, looks like you got a vein of quartzite here, but you got another line over here that shows that Thursday is going to be a bad day for you next week. But hey, this line over here, oh, by the way, let's flip this thing over. Oh, it turns out that Monday of next week's going to rock for you. I mean, how much of that is actionable? In other words, what are you getting from a person who's telling your future or your fortune? And the funny thing about it is, with the woman who gave the $1.6 million to the fortune teller, said, I'm going to remove a curse from you, she actually made a specific promise. Now, some people are now going to say, but Steve, the promise is absurd. It's kind of like saying, I'm going to keep you from being eaten by a dinosaur tomorrow. Okay? Give me $100. I guarantee you will not be eaten by a dinosaur tomorrow. You give me the $100, you're not eaten by a dinosaur tomorrow. Boom. I was right. People go, but Steve, there's no such thing as dinosaurs anymore. They don't eat people anymore. They might not have never eaten people. They might never have eaten people because of the fact that they might not have overlapped that way. But the point simply is this, that is this a real promise that this woman's making when she says, I can remove a curse, and there is a curse? And then, is that an actual service she can provide? Now, that's why I was getting at earlier. Was it her undoing when she admitted there'd been no curse? Because what if she said, no, I honestly believe there was a curse. I believe there was a curse, and I can show you where I spent a lot of this money buying crystals and candles. The rest of the money goes to my expertise, but I actually did something here. You might not agree with it, but I did something. And so you can imagine that there's a spectrum here, right? So if you hire a guy to come to your house and dig a ditch, and he comes out and he digs a ditch, and we can argue about how well he dug it or whether he dug an actual ditch versus a hole or an elongated hole. But you can understand looking and go, well, but the guy did something. He dug a ditch, okay? But then when it comes to fortune telling, what are they doing? What are they doing other than looking at your hand and making sounds with their mouths where they, it might be words, but does anybody believe that to be true or not? And I've always been curious about that, where if there was a law in the state that said someone's actually got to provide the promised benefits that you pay for, if you go into a fortune teller and say to them, I'll pay you $50, tell me my future, okay? They're not doing it, but could you prove they weren't doing it? In other words, if they said, by the way, something's going to happen to you on Thursday and nothing happens to you on Thursday, could you go back and sue that person? And there's an interesting question there, because you and I both know there's no such thing as fortune tellers, or people who can tell the future, or people who can lift curses, or people who can put curses on people. It's all nonsense. It's all nonsense. But at what point would it become actionable? So it's interesting here, because really what this boils down to is this woman, the fortune teller, got the other woman to pay her $1.6 million for something, which she later admitted was false. She later admitted. So in a roundabout way, it's almost like she admitted to being fraudulent, committing fraud. Okay. But what if she'd never admitted that? That's the curious question. And then again, of course, let's suppose that someone came to you and said, look, we're having a party. This fortune teller is going to sit in another room and she can actually tell the future, And I've had people tell me, they go, surprisingly, you'd be amazed the stuff this woman can come up with, or this person can come up with. And I don't believe it. Many of you don't believe it. So if you give the person the money and you don't believe what they're doing, you're doing it for entertainment purposes. But again, like I said, it's curious here because you get the $1.6 million scam and you get jail time out of it. But this scam actually takes place on a much smaller level, much more often than you might think. So there you go. Self-proclaimed psychic fortune teller gets prison for $1.6 million family curse scam. And she admitted it was a scam when she said there'd been no curse. Questions or comments, put them below. Otherwise, talk to you later. Bye-bye.